In the small matters trust the mind, in the large ones the heart. The conscious mind may be compared to a fountain playing in the sun and falling back into the great subterranean pool of subconscious from which it rises. Dreams are the royal road to the unconscious. The only shame in masturbation is not doing it well. All family life is organized around the most damaged person in it. A woman should soften, but not weaken a man. How bold one becomes when sure of being loved. Time spent with cats is never wasted. Friendship is the art of keeping distance, while love is the art of intimacy. Experience teaches us that the world is not a nursery. The only person with whom you have to compare ourselves is that you in the past, and the only person better you should be. The first human to hurl an insult instead of a stone was the founder of civilization. We are made to derive intense enjoyment from contrasts and very little from a stable state. Maturity is the ability to delay gratification. The ego is not master in its own house. Understanding yourself from within is crucial. The more perfect the person is on the outside, the more demons they have on the inside. The first requisite of civilization is that of justice. A civilization which leaves so large a number of its participants unsatisfied and drives them into revolt neither has nor deserves the prospect of a lasting existence. Words have a magical power. They can bring either the greatest happiness or deepest despair. The only shame in masturbation is the shame of not doing it well. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. We do not randomly choose each other. We meet those who already exist in our subconscious. The intention that man should be happy is not in the plan of creation. The madman is a dreamer awake. We enter the world with loneliness, and lonely leave it all. Adaptation is partial death. What progress we are making. In the Middle Ages, they would have burned me. Now they are content with burning my books. We seek more to alleviate suffering than to gain pleasure. We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love. Limitations in the possibility of enjoyment increase its value. The mind is like an iceberg with only 1/7 of its bulk above water. Recognizing a problem as half the success in solving it. Civilized society is perpetually threatened by the primary hostility of men toward one another. When one does not have what one wants, one must want what one has. Everyone owes nature a death. Religion is a universal compulsive neurosis. No one who, like me, conjures up the most evil of those half-tamed demons that inhabit the human beast and seeks to wrestle with them can expect to come through the struggle unscathed. The secret of the human soul lies in the psychic dramas of childhood. Uncover these dramas and healing will follow. Religion is a universal compulsive neurosis. Religion is an illusion, and it derives its strength from the fact that it falls in with our instinctual desires. A busy man is seldom visited by idle friends. No FLIs fly to a boiling pot. Who lacks sex speaks about sex. Hungry talks about food. A person who has no money about money. And our oligarchs and bankers talk about morality. We seek more to take suffering away from ourselves than to gain pleasure. The only person you should compare yourself to is your past self. Strive to be better than who you are now. Where it is, there shall ego be. Religion is a defense against the experience of God. The more perfect someone appears on the outside, the more demons they may harbor inside. Immorality, no less than morality, has at all times found support in religion. Love and work, work and love, that's all there is. A man is sometimes more generous when he has little money than when he has much, perhaps to avoid thinking he has none at all. A man who has been the indisputable favorite of his mother keeps for life the feeling of a conqueror. The most important part of your life is to understand yourself from the inside. A certain degree of neurosis is of inestimable value as a drive, especially to a psychologist. In small matters, trust the mind. In large ones, trust the heart. Words have a magical power. They can bring either the greatest happiness or the deepest despair. The goal of all life is death. The unconscious is the true psychical reality. Recognizing a problem is half the solution. Masturbation is one of the primary abodes. The primary addiction, subsequent addictions, alcohol, tobacco, morphine, are only its substitutes. A busy man is seldom visited by idle friends, just as no FLIs flock to a boiling pot. We enter and leave the world alone. All adaptation is a partial death. Envy is destructive. Don't be tempted by it. Lie by your own rules. Love and work are the cornerstones of our humanness. Happiness is a child's dream fulfilled in maturity. Marriage transforms a couple's relationship. They live for someone else, and dangerous rivals, such as the household and nursery, soon appear for the husband. The husband is almost always a substitute for the beloved man, and not the man himself. The liberty of the individual is no gift of civilization. It was greatest before there was any civilization. A man should not strive to eliminate his complexes, but to harmonize with them, for they legitimately direct his conduct. A father's death is the most important event, the more heartbreaking and poignant loss in a man's life. We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love. Out of your vulnerabilities will come your strength. We are so made that we can derive intense enjoyment only from a contrast and only very little from a state of things. The disappearance of individuality, perfect eternal hate, purified love, exists only between an addict and their drug. A man should not strive to eliminate his complexes, but to get into accord with them. They are legitimately what directs his conduct in the world. No mortal can keep a secret. If his lips are silent, his fingertips will speak. Betrayal seeps from him through every pore. One day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. Flowers are restful to look at. They have neither emotions nor conflicts. The scope of one's personality is defined by the magnitude of the problem capable of driving them out of their wits. The only person with whom you have to compare yourself is you in the past. The secret of the human soul lies in the psychic dramas of childhood. Get to the bottom of these dramas and healing will come. No mortal is capable of keeping a secret. Friendship is an art of keeping distance, while love is an art of intimacy. The more the fruits of knowledge become accessible to men, the more widespread is the decline of religious belief. One day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. Everywhere I go, I find a poet has been there before me. From error to error, one discovers the entire truth. You do not stop looking for strength and confidence outside, but you should look inside yourself. They have always been there. The dream is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul. Limitation in the possibility of enjoyment raises the value of the enjoyment. The energetic and successful person transforms the fantasies of desire into reality. The mind is like an iceberg. It floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water. Without love, we fall ill. The first sign of stupidity is a complete lack of shame. The scope of one's personality is defined by the magnitude of that problem which is capable of driving a person out of his wits. A man is sometimes more generous when he has little money than when he has much, perhaps to keep from thinking he has none at all. We do not randomly choose each other, we meet only those who already exist in our subconscious. Writing down is the best way to remember if a quote in this video really resonated with you. Pause this video and share it with us in the comments below. In retrospect, the years of struggle will someday strike you as the most beautiful. All people are born bisexual and later choose their sexual orientation depending on their life's circumstances. Thought is action in rehearsal. Everywhere I go, I find a poet has been there before me. How bold one gets when one is sure of being loved. The goal towards which the pleasure principle impels us of becoming happy is not attainable. Most people do not truly want freedom, as freedom involves responsibility, and many are afraid of responsibility. Depression is frozen fear. Sadism is all right in its place, but it should be directed to proper ends. Children are completely egoistic. They feel their needs intensely and strive ruthlessly to satisfy them. The dream is the liberation of the spirit from the pressure of external nature, a detachment of the soul from the fetters of matter. At a woman's breast, love and hunger are crossed. The more perfect a person is on the outside, the more demons they have on the inside. What a distressing contrast there is between the radiant intelligence of the child and the feeble mentality of the average adult. People in general are insincere in the sexual matters. They do not openly display their sexuality, but rather hide it by putting on a tight coat zone from a matter called lie. In the world of sexual relations, we are never so defenseless as when we love, and never so helplessly unhappy as when we lose the object of love or his love. Avoid women who talk excessively about sex, as they may have suffered a psychological breakdown from its lack. The first human who hurled an insult instead of a stone was the founder of civilization. Everyone owes nature and death. Maturity is the ability to postpone gratification. Just as no one can be forced into belief, so no one can be forced into unbelief. Nothing costs as much in life as illness, except ignoring an illness. When people marry, they no longer live for each other as they did before. They live with each other for someone third, and dangerous rivals soon appear for the husband, the household, and the nursery. The energetic and successful man is the one who succeeds in transforming the fantasies of desire into reality. The act of birth is the first experience of anxiety, and thus the source and prototype of the affect of anxiety. The unconscious is structured like a language. Civilized society is perpetually menaced with disintegration through this primary hostility of men towards one another. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. Masturbation is the primary addiction. Subsequent addictions to alcohol, tobacco, and morphine are merely substitutes. History is just new people making old mistakes. He does not believe that does not live according to his belief. The best is always the enemy of the good. History is new people making old mistakes. There is no need in childhood as strong as the need for a father's protection. The unconscious of one human being can react upon that of another without passing through the conscious. A joke allows one to satisfy a lustful or hostile instinct despite obstacles. The voice of the intellect is a soft one, but it does not rest until it has gained a hearing. We are what we are because we have been what we have been. People are more moral than they think and far more immoral than they can imagine. All people are born bisexual and later choose their sexual orientation based on life circumstances. Where id was, there shall ego be. Depression is a frozen fear. Before you diagnose yourself with depression or low self-esteem, first make sure that you are not in fact just surrounded by idiots. Only the complete absence of sex can be considered a sexual deviation. Everything else is a matter of taste. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. Nothing costs so much in life as illness and ignoring an illness. Civilization began the first time an angry person cast a word instead of a rock. Just as no one can be forced into belief, no one can be forced into unbelief. Adults don't understand children because they have forgotten their own childhood. Those who lack sex speak about sex, the hungry talk about food, the poor about money, and oligarchs and bankers about morality. One is very crazy when in love. If you knew if age could. Being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. Avoid women who talk a lot about sex because often they have gotten a psychological breakdown from the lack of it. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. In the small matters, trust the mind. In the large ones, trust the heart. The voice of the intellect is quiet, but it never tires of repeating, and listeners are found. The interpretation of dreams is the royal road to a knowledge of the unconscious activities of the mind. We adults don't understand children because we don't understand our own childhood anymore. Stop seeking strength and confidence outside. Look within yourself, where they have always been. Every normal person, in fact, is only normal on the average. His ego approximates to that of the psychotic in some part or other, and to a greater or lesser extent. A joke makes it possible to satisfy a lustful or hostile instinct, despite an obstacle in its path. The voice of the intellect is quiet, but persistent, and listeners are always found. When making a decision of minor importance, I have always found it advantageous to consider all the pros and cons. In vital matters, however, such as the choice of a mate or a profession, the decision should come from the unconscious, from somewhere within ourselves. The first indication of stupidity is a complete lack of shame. When one lacks what they desire, they must desire what they have. Before diagnosing yourself with depression or low self-esteem, ensure you are not merely surrounded by idiots. A woman will never want sex with a man who doesn't get her hints. We are so made that we can only derive intense enjoyment from a contrast and only very little from a state of things. All family life is organized around its most damaged person. Every normal person is really only partly normal. The paranoid is never entirely mistaken. If his lips are silent, his fingertips speak. Betrayal oozes from him through every pore. The unconscious mind of man sees correctly, even when conscious reason is blind and impotent. Envy is destructive. Avoid it and live by your own rules. We choose not randomly each other. We meet only those who already exist in our subconscious. The disappearance of a particle of individuality, perfect eternal hate, purified love, exists only between the addict and the drug. The mind is like an iceberg. It floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water. If you knew what age could. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Neurosis is the inability to tolerate ambiguity. A husband is almost always only a substitute for the beloved man, and not this man himself. Unexpressed emotions never die, they are buried alive and will resurface in uglier ways. Thanks for watching. To make sure you don't miss any future videos, please click the circular subscribe button in the middle of the screen. You can also check out more videos on the left or our playlists on the right. Don't forget to like and share to help us spread the word. Thanks you.